Discapacidad Televisión.
¡Hola, mundo!
Primer canal de televisión dedicado al colectivo de personas con discapacidad desde 2006.
Hola, bienvenidos a Discapacidad Televisión. Recuerda suscribirte para no perderte los últimos estrenos y programas en vivo. Danos un me gusta y así nos ayudarás a conocerte mejor. Por favor, no te olvides de compartir. Así, más personas podrán disfrutar de Discapacidad Televisión y toda su programación. Muchas gracias.
En América Latina y el Caribe hay 70 millones de personas con discapacidad. La falta de infraestructura accesible es una de las barreras que enfrentan. Desde el BID promovemos la inclusión laboral de personas con discapacidad, el fortalecimiento institucional en temas relacionados y el desarrollo de estándares de accesibilidad universal en la infraestructura. Un ejemplo es el Programa de Sustentabilidad y Eficiencia del Sector Eléctrico en República Dominicana, donde se desarrolló una política de inclusión laboral. También se construirán baños accesibles gracias al Programa de Gestión Integral de Residuos Sólidos Urbanos en Argentina. Y en Brasil se han capacitado a conductores de autobuses para atender a sus usuarios, garantizando la accesibilidad a las estaciones y al espacio público. Además, hemos desarrollado una guía de servicio inclusivo para personas con discapacidad y otras publicaciones en transporte, agua y energía. Estamos haciendo camino hacia una región más inclusiva.
Conectados al cuidar, porque nos mueve incluir. Te invitamos a conocer la línea 800-000-058. Conectados al cuidar. Una línea gratuita de apoyo con profesionales dispuestos a acompañar y acoger a personas con discapacidad y sus cuidadoras. Esta línea también está disponible para atender consultas sobre el Servicio Nacional de la Discapacidad y además orientar sobre los trámites y beneficios del Estado en materia de inclusión. Puedes comunicarte de lunes a viernes desde las 9 hasta las 18 horas. Las personas sordas pueden contactarse a través del sistema Visor Web, disponible en el sitio web de Cenadis, www.cenadis.gov.cl.
¿Conoces los programas que conforman a la CNDH? 6. Atención a personas con discapacidad. Este importante programa, perteneciente a la primera Visitaduría General, trabaja de manera conjunta con organizaciones de la sociedad civil y dependencias de los 3 órdenes de gobierno, a través de la promoción, difusión, orientación y acompañamiento en casos de presunta vulneración a los derechos humanos de las personas con discapacidad. Además, realiza investigaciones, informes y diagnósticos acerca del estado que guardan los derechos humanos de este sector de la población, a fin de dar a conocer las áreas de oportunidad, coadyuvando con la asertiva toma de decisiones en pro de la inclusión. Si consideras que tus derechos han sido vulnerados, acércate a nosotros. En la Comisión Nacional de los Derechos Humanos, defendemos al pueblo.
El ruido tiene nombre de generación. Somos Decibelians. Y no nos conocerás por cómo vestimos ni por nuestro estilo de vida. Somos la primera generación marcada por el ruido. El ruido excesivo y prolongado, el uso frecuente de auriculares con un volumen alto y la contaminación acústica impactan en nuestra salud y nuestra calidad de vida. Y lo hacen, paradójicamente, de forma silenciosa. Pero es irreversible.
El 50% de los jóvenes entre 12 y 35 años están en riesgo de pérdida auditiva
por exceso de ruido en contextos recreativos.
Nuestro futuro no suena bien, ¿verdad?
Queremos cambiarlo. Tomar conciencia e incorporar hábitos saludables para el cuidado de nuestra audición.
Podemos hacerlo.
Hagamos que el ruido no escriba la historia de nuestra generación. Baja el volumen. Sube la salud auditiva.
porque seguimos comprometidos con la inclusión.
Reconocemos la importancia de la lengua de señas y el aporte de la comunidad sorda en nuestra cultura.
Porque las lenguas de señas nos unen.
Discapacidad Televisión.
¡Hola mundo!
Primer canal de televisión dedicado al colectivo de personas con discapacidad desde 2006. A continuación, Footless Show, más allá de una amputación. Presenta Joe Beckwith. Audio en inglés, subtítulos en castellano.
My beautiful, lovely internet friends, welcome back to my channel. Leo is also very glad to see you here. We're gonna comfy and sip some coffee for confidence as I talk about this subject, because it's one that matters a whole awful lot to me. My job is putting things into words for other people. It is professional speaking, it is YouTube videos and short videos, taking a concept or an experience or an emotion and trying to convey that in a way that makes sense to other people. And to some extent, I have skill in that area. I don't struggle to do that. But with this topic in particular, my mind just goes blank because I am so overwhelmed with the emotion behind it that it becomes difficult to speak about. So back in September, the Daily Mail released this lovely article. You can see the link down below and the full title, but it's called Addicted to Being Sad and talks about teenage girls with invisible or undiagnosed illnesses making videos on TikTok about their experiences with doctors, experiences with life, you know, the sadness and the pain and the difficulty of surviving in a body that freaking sucks to exist in, and that maybe you don't know what's going on, or maybe there isn't a cure even if you do know what's going on. But the entire tone of the article is incredibly dismissive, makes the accusation that this is for clout, that they're doing this to garner thousands of likes, and also insinuates that it's probably just anxiety in many of the cases. And that is a cultural, societal mindset that I have seen since the day I started having medical issues. But what I want to talk about is the long-term effects of growing up as a teenage girl with an invisible illness that was often accused of doing it for attention, of it just being anxiety, of nothing really being wrong, it's all in my head, I should just see a therapist. Not by random people, but by people who mattered, like a lot of medical professionals. For the record, they were incorrect. There were things that were actually wrong. But when you spend years realizing that socially and also, you know, working with medical professionals, there is a baseline level of suspicion and the thought that you are lying and hysterical if someone can't see that something is wrong with you. It leads to some pretty unfortunate behaviors in life. And I want to talk about a few of those to kind of shed some light on the damage that this causes. It's extensive. I think the first thing that I learned was not to trust my own experience or advocate for myself. Because even though things were wrong in my body, doctors were telling me I was just fine and anxious, or maybe just a teenage girl, you know, girls just have issues. And when you hear that enough from doctors, and when you also get that reaction from friends, thankfully not family members in my case, it is really hard to continue trusting your own experience when you are developing as a person. When everyone tells you that what you are experiencing, the pain you are feeling is not real, or it's not as severe as what you're saying, nothing's actually wrong with you, you're fine, you're just being dramatic, you learn to ignore what is going on in your body, or question it, or just assume that it's all in your head. That is one of the biggest things I have fought against my entire life, not only with my body, but in every aspect of life. I question myself and question myself because there's no way my experience could be valid. And when people minimize and ignore your symptoms, or if you talk about them, you're just looking for attention, you stop talking talking about them. You stop paying attention to them. One example of this is last summer, I got a bad kidney infection. By the time I went into the doctor, it should have turned septic, they told me. I was chastised by 2 nurses and a doctor for not coming in sooner because obviously something was wrong. Why did I wait this long? And I wanted to scream and lose my mind because I was like, being in pain is my daily experience. This is barely outside the norm. I almost didn't come in because I am so used to being in pain, and also because I am so used to the fact when I am seeking help for being in pain that it is minimized and I am told it is not real or not severe. So why would I want to come in to an emergency room, spend an obscene amount of money just to have people tell me everything's fine and it's my fault? And that actually almost killed me. The other thing that happens pretty much immediately is you start developing really good skills at masking and hiding how you actually feel, what is actually going on, because you think people don't want to hear it and you don't want them to think poorly of you, think that you're a burden, think you're exaggerating things. So you learn to shut up. You learn to stuff things deep, deep down. And that is probably the single most destructive tendency I have acquired in my life. And it's one of these catch-22 things, because the better you get at pretending like you're fine, everything's great. You know, you're smiling, your hair's done, your makeup's done, you're talking to your friends, everything's fine. The better you get at that, the more people and doctors do not believe you when you tell them the amount of pain or suffering that you are in, because you look fine. But if you don't look fine, you lose people. You deal with that suspicion and that doubt and that fear of being labeled as attention-seeking or dramatic. So you just hide it. And as you hide it better and better, people believe you less and less. Another skill that I kind of mastered in that arena was learning how to not react to pain or not show pain in as many situations as possible, so that when I really was in pain, people would believe me. I noticed this even recently. I went and got a piercing with a friend not that long ago, and it was through like a couple layers of cartilage. It's not a super comfy piercing, like it hurts, right? It would be totally normal and understandable to like flinch and be like, oh, okay, all right, I'm good, ouch, you know? And I sat there without reacting at all because I have learned how to do that, and I did not show a single bit of pain subconsciously, so that I could gain credibility with the people around me, that if I ever really am in pain, they can think back to that experience and be like, well, you know, she got that piercing. Well, we saw her in what should have been pain, but she didn't react then, but she is reacting now. This was recently brought to my attention by a friend of mine who was genuinely concerned by the lack of reaction that I had to pain. I had a bad cut and it had to be cleaned, and the stuff that was being used to clean it, it stings, it burns, it feels awful, right? And I sat there without having a single reaction to any of it because I have learned how to do that. And they told me days later that it was genuinely a little bit disturbing, that there was like no reaction, but that was normal for me. And in a weird way, I was kind of like, good, all right, so if I ever actually am in pain, I've gained enough credibility points with this person that they will believe me. And that is something that I take into every aspect of my life. I think if I mask the pain, if I hide it, if people think, oh, that should have hurt her, but she seems fine, then when something is wrong and it rises to a level that I actually need help, maybe they'll believe me. But the thing is, I shouldn't have to do that. And with most people, I probably don't have to do that, but it just becomes second nature to preemptively make sure that people are gonna believe you when something's actually wrong. It's this constant mind game because I'm so tired and so scared of people thinking that I'm faking something or being overdramatic or doing it for attention when I am not. Back when I first started experiencing chronic pain, when I fell off the horse, when I started having chronic severe migraines, when I was dealing with other internal things going on, all of that was real and should have been believed, but it wasn't. And it left me as someone who has a very difficult time thinking anyone is gonna trust them. It's also made communication with doctors insanely difficult because when you have enough experiences of people downplaying, talking down to you, thinking you're doing it for attention or there's no way you could possibly know your own body, nothing's actually wrong. When you have enough of those experiences, it becomes really challenging to approach any doctor as if they're actually going to help you. It kind of starts to feel like doctors are the enemy, which I know they are not. I've had incredible doctors that have helped me in so many ways, that have listened to me, that have actually taken the time to figure out what the hell was going on. But it is hard not to carry this prejudice towards every doctor I ever meet. And when you go into a situation thinking, this person's not going to trust me, they're not going to believe me, they're going to suspect me of just being anxious or doing it for attention, attention, you come in defensive and almost angry. And sometimes that shows, and that's not good and that's not fair. But it is so difficult to do when you have been conditioned for over a decade that you have to fight. And even if you fight, you're still not going to be helped. This is a very conscious mental thing that I go through every single time I meet with a doctor. I have to take a moment to be like, all right, leave your previous experiences with other professionals at the door. This person is a new person. Don't blame them. Don't hold other people's mistakes against them. You know, speak to your doctor honestly like they're going to help you. And I feel like a crazy person doing that because I'm like, no, so many things have told me this is not the case. Why would I do that? Why would I trust this person? Why would I talk to them like they actually want to help? But then if you don't do that, A, it's just bad, but B, you come in upset and angry at them, which doesn't promote good communication. It does not promote understanding or someone, you know, wanting to help you even though they still will. It promotes unhealthy relationships with your doctors, but it's so hard to avoid. Like when you think everyone's gonna suspect you of being over dramatic, you learn how to be under dramatic, but being under dramatic means that you're not actually sharing the reality of your situation with people, which leads to feeling insanely isolated. And that's the other thing. It is so isolating to be in pain. And when you read articles like teenage girls, you know, sharing crying videos on TikTok for thousands of likes, which is very clearly implying it is for attention. And while I can't speak for all of these videos, perhaps not everyone is being honest. That's always a possibility, a pretty small one, but a possibility. I'm glad that they're talking about it. I'm glad that they're sharing their experiences and emotions because that helps people connect. That helps people feel less alone. I'm glad that these teenagers have found some kind of community on TikTok or Instagram or wherever it might be, because I did not have that. In so many ways, what was going on with my ankle during my teenage years when I was having a lot of surgeries on it that eventually led to, you know, the leg chopping. In a way, there was relief in some of those experiences because someone could see on an x-ray that something was out of place. Someone could read on an MRI that something was going on, and eventually someone could see that my leg was gone. And so I wasn't going to be questioned about it. Everything I went through with my ankle in particular, insanely painful, lots of time in hospitals and surgeries and all that jazz, but I didn't really deal with people thinking that I was lying or suspecting me for things. People wanted to help because they could see that it was wrong, and it was the least painful, like overall human being, whole experience painful thing because I knew I could find help. And having to lose my leg, where now anyone can clearly see something is different, people don't question that. And I appreciate that, but that shouldn't be so rare. Your experience of the world is very different than other people's when every day of your life is marked by physical pain. Your peers are not having that same experience. They're not sick all the time. They don't have to leave school or work. They aren't seeing doctor after doctor, and you just feel like an alien. You feel weird. And I still struggle with that to some extent, though it's gotten significantly easier over the years because I have found community. I have found people to connect with. And I've sat here for a long time and wondered why. Why don't we believe people when they say something is wrong, when we can't see it with our own two eyes? And when you're talking about this sort of thing, when you're talking about someone with an invisible illness or something that is yet to be diagnosed, so something's going on, we just don't know what it is yet, why is so often that questioned? I wonder if a lot of it doesn't come down to fear. Like, it's a terrifying thought that you could have something really wrong and no one can know what it is. So it's just easier to think, well, that wouldn't happen. That can't actually be the experience, so I'm sure they're not actually sick. I'm sure they're not actually hurting. I'm sure that could never happen to me. I don't know. That seems like potentially part of the reason. I also think a big part of it is that people don't want to hear about it all the time, understandably. And frankly, oftentimes people don't want to hear about it at all. A lot of healthy, able-bodied people would kind of prefer just to not recognize or want society to take care of those who are sick and disabled. We see this ableism absolutely everywhere. And also, sitting with someone in pain or sickness, whatever that is uncomfortable. It's hard to meet someone where they are. It's beautiful and good and such an important part of our human experiences, but it's not comfy. It's much easier to have a surface level conversation. It takes courage to believe and to sit with someone understanding that you can't fix it, but you can be there. Genuinely, I don't know the reason. And when it comes to the medical community, I am not a medical professional, so I don't know, but I also have to theorize that maybe some of it comes from frustration of not being able to find the solution. There were a lot of doctors that I met with. They're like, okay, yeah, let's take care of things. Let's run this test. You know, I don't think you've had this done before. Let's get it checked out. And the second that all of that comes back as normal and it's not clear what the cause is, but that I am still not okay, the tone shifts and it's like, well, I mean, everything that I ran says that you're fine, so I don't know, you're fine. And I'm guessing that a lot of these doctors genuinely want to help. Like, they got into medicine for a reason. They wanted to find solutions for problems, and frankly, if you can't find a solution for a problem, maybe it's a little bit easier to just say that that problem doesn't exist and that it's not your fault. And taking the time to be like, wow, this is really a puzzle. I don't know. Let's figure it out. It's easier to just be dismissive. It's less uncomfortable. It's less work. I don't know. Again, that's just my guess. Like I said, I'll leave that article linked down below, but it just made me so sad to read because it reflected so many of the things that I have had said to me over the years, so many of the perspectives that I have met. It reminded me why I got so good at hiding things in the first place, to my detriment. And I really hope that moving forward we can work on believing people a little bit better and understanding that not every medical issue is solvable, is immediately diagnosable. Sometimes things are really complicated. Our bodies are weird things. When I had a kidney infection last year that led to some other issues and lingering pain, I was told by a doctor that I knew for literally 30 minutes, he'd spoken to me for maybe 5, that he reviewed my ultrasound results and nothing looked out of place, so there was no way anything else could be wrong. Out of the plethora of things that can go wrong in our human bodies, all of the weird diseases and illnesses and disorders that are out there, after running a single ultrasound, it was like, well, there's nothing wrong and there's no way anything could be wrong, so you're fine, even though I was in a lot of pain still. It's not easy dealing with things that don't have answers or solutions. It's scary, I think, across the board, and I hope that we can get better at this because it matters, because it has lasting, lifelong impact on the people who are suffering. And in recent years, I'm happy to say that I've made some progress on some of these things. Started allowing people to know me a little bit better, even if I'm like, I should be positive all the time, but I'm not, and just showing that, just showing up as who I am. I've certainly lost some people from my life, but the relationships that I have gained and shared that with have gotten a lot deeper. It's a work in progress. It's you, it's not me. But for my own mental health, I'm gonna have to end this relationship. So I have had the same kind of prosthetic suction system for years. Basically, there are a variety of different ways that you can get a prosthetic limb to attach to a human body, and the one that I have been using relies on suction. There have been a lot of times when this has been very comfortable for me, but there are so many issues that I've run into over the past 4 years, but specifically in the last few months, that I'm fed up. My beautiful internet friends, I am done. And so today I'm gonna embark on a brand new adventure. I'm headed up to Denver to work with the folks at Extremity Prosthetics to make an entirely different system of attachment for me. I'm going to be trying something called the pin lock system. So every prosthetic attachment system has pros and cons, right? A big pro of this for me is that it has been very comfortable at times, but it is also very prone to breaking. So these sleeves, which is the piece you see kind of coming up my leg here, if they get even the tiniest hint of a hole in them that can let air in and mess with that suction, it gets incredibly uncomfortable very quickly. These are not cheap. Insurance pays for 2 every 6 months. They generally wear out for me after like 2 months. So it's a constant source of anxiety, never knowing when a hole is gonna happen. It could happen on the 2nd day or the 60th day, where I'm gonna be when that happens, and if I have a sleeve to replace it, or if I'm gonna have to use crutches or a wheelchair, or just not be able to walk for days at a time as I try to get another sleeve. And darling friends, I'm tired of it. But I also don't know if it's gonna be comfortable for me. Everybody is different. Every amputee has a different opinion from their experience. Every prosthetist has a different kind of preference based on their experience. But I just made the universal call on my own that it's time for something new. I'm actually really excited / a little bit nervous for this. Could be a life-changing, really good thing. It could also totally and entirely not work, but we're gonna find out. So let's head up to Denver. But a couple days before Christmas, I headed up to Extremity Prosthetics to see my prosthetist Trace. He got started on making me a new pin lock system, and I asked him about some of the pros and cons.
In general, different suspension systems have pros and cons. There is no best system. If there's a best system, everyone can. I kind of compare it to cars. So a pin lock is kind of like a pickup truck. It's the most it's easy, right? You hear the click, you know it's locked in, it's not falling off. The nice thing about pin locks is they're very durable. So suction and vacuum systems are much heavier maintenance.
Like I was saying earlier, every amputee is different, every body is different. You just gotta find what works for you, so we're gonna give this a shot. Trace finished up the casting of my leg and had me come back a couple days later because of time constraints to actually try out this pin lock system.
Today is the day. I just made it up to Extremity up here in Denver, and I'm gonna be trying on my newly minted pin lock socket. I have never used these to walk. After last week and kind of doing the initial casting, I am a little bit concerned that it might not be the right system for me because of how my bones are situated. We're just not sure, but it is worth a try, and even if it works well enough, I think it'd be good to have a leg that doesn't rely on suction when suction fails, like even if I stay with suction legs. So anyways, it's an experiment, so we'll just see what happens.
Now, there are a lot of different pieces that go into a fitting. It's not only how it feels on your leg, but also the alignment of the ankle, the height, how you're stepping, things like that. So we spent a while kind of tweaking that, getting it right, using the heat gun to make quick modifications to make it more comfortable, which is something super cool that these sockets do. If you're interested in hearing more about that, check out the video I've linked down below. But after about an hour, I was ready to go, and honestly, I really liked it. I took it home for the weekend over the holidays to really give it a shot and see what I thought about it in daily life. Please welcome to the stage my brand new socket. So it is now, oh goodness, I spilled coffee in the last video too. Oh, that's a lot of coffee, hold on. This time it's tea. My poor couch, thank God these are washable covers. But it's now a couple days after I got this pin lock socket. So there's some major benefits of this that I'm really excited about because honestly, in so many ways it really is just the little things. Unfortunately, the pain is not any different, at least so far. And when you get a new socket, there's always gonna be, you know, modifications that need to be made as you have it for a few days and kind of figure out what it feels like, if there are painful spots. But overall, I'd say it feels pretty much the same as the suction system I had, which I kind of count as good news, honestly, because if this leg can work for me, getting rid of the anxiety that the suction is gonna randomly fail if I'm grocery shopping or traveling, or my sleeve's gonna get a hole and now I don't have a leg and is insurance gonna pay for it? Can they ship it in time? Will I not be able to walk for days? Like, the suction system that I've had before has worked in so many ways really well for me, but I kind of got to a point where I was really tired of the continual small problems that I was running into. And kind of like Trace, my prosthetist who you saw in this video who was making this one for me, was talking about, this is kind of like the all-terrain model. Like, if I was gonna be stuck in a zombie apocalypse, this is the kind of leg I would want because it is a very simple system. There are much fewer parts that break, it is much more durable, it's just step in and go. But there is one thing I really don't like about it that we're gonna fix right now as I tell you about some of the other benefits. Sorry, the camera's moving, he's licking the tripod. Why is he doing that? No one knows. Okay, so one of the things that I do not love about this is the aesthetics. Especially if I'm adding a sock in for layering, which I need, it looks messy. I don't love that. So I'm going to see if I can figure out a solution here. I have not field tested this just yet, so we're gonna discover together if it works. Benefit number one, like I was saying, it is ridiculously easy to get on and off. Depending on what I'm wearing, it cuts down the amount of time that I'm spending like trying to get my leg back on and feeling right by like 400%. It is so much faster. I would be way more comfortable taking this leg off pretty much wherever I am, because if I need to get out of the building quickly or move fast, all I have to do is quite literally step into it and I'm good to go. So I can move a lot faster. Also aesthetically, especially with, you know, some kind of sock, which I could change the colors out, you know, matching an outfit or whatever, I like the way that this looks so much better. Without that big sleeve coming up my leg, my skin also has more room to breathe. But if I'm like wearing leggings, I can just tuck them into the top there. It's super easy. And my most favorite thing, I've talked a lot in some of my short form videos about how annoying pants are with a prosthetic leg, because I basically have to undress to be able to take my leg on and off unless I like cut the leg of the pant off, which with like jeans is difficult to do and looks weird. But with this one, if I was wearing these Christmassy PJs, for example, which I would normally have to cut the leg off of to be able to get high enough to roll my leg down to take it off, problem solved. I get where I'm going, pop it off, I'm good to be comfy. And the last thing that I really like about it is that the range of motion in my knee is so much better. Like being able to actually, look at this, like bend my knee this far, that was unheard of with the sleeve and the other socket that I had. Like I can do this comfortably, walking up and down stairs. I'm not feeling so much pressure in my knee, you know, at the back of my leg with a socket kind of cutting in. So that part is amazing. I'm not sure how the men's dress sock looks, but I'll work on the styling of it. All in all, I would call this a major success, and I don't know how it's gonna work. You know, I don't know how it's gonna go. I would say that a couple of the downsides for me personally are when I am taking off my leg and sitting somewhere, I now have this screw coming out the bottom of my leg, which looks kind of funny. It's harder to get comfortable. I might like accidentally, you know, bump or cut my leg with it if I'm not careful. Not that big of a deal. That's just not my favorite. But the benefits that it have certainly compensate. Also, it does get noisy. So as the volume changes in my leg, sometimes my leg shrinks or swells up through the day, it will start making these clicking noises unless the fit is right. So that clicking basically tells me I need to add or sometimes remove a sock. Not a bad thing. The noise is just super annoying, but thankfully pretty easily fixable. I don't think that I would wear this like running or doing any kind of high impact activities, at least yet. It still feels kind of weird not to have as much contact with the rest of my leg. It feels like it could come off easily, even though it's not going to. I don't quite trust it yet, I think. And I know a lot of people who use pin lock sockets who do still wear a sleeve, for additional support when they're doing high impact activities like running, snowboarding, things like that. But for now, I would call this an absolute success. It's really, really amazing to have another option if nothing else. I am so grateful to Trace at Extremity and just the Extremity team for making this for me, for letting me try this out, for getting me the supplies. Even if the pin lock socket ends up not being it for me, if it ends up causing more pain or anything like that, this is amazing to have as a backup option for days where, suction fails. I think that there are different systems and different legs for different purposes, and this one so far is really great for sort of the normal, everyday ease of life. Also, real quick before signing off, I wanted to say a word about my last video. I talked pretty candidly about some mental health struggles and sort of the emotional space that I have been in and how that's been pretty dark, and I just want to say thank you so much for all of your comments, for your support. So many people related to that. I know that a lot of us are struggling and we're making it through day by day. So I just want to say thank you and also reiterate the fact that I'm not okay, but I am taking the steps that I need to get there. And also, I did indeed get a Yet tattoo. Like I talked about, I actually have gotten quite a few tattoos in the last few weeks, which I love. It makes me happy. It gives me something to look forward to. I enjoy the process. But they are still healing and don't look great for close-ups yet because they're a little, scabby and my skin is irritated, so I shall just show you them from afar and we'll get close-ups in another video if you're interested. But having this word, permanently on me as a reminder in those dark moments that I might not feel better yet, I might not see any hope yet, I might not see a path through this or any way that anything could ever be okay yet, and to just keep holding on is something that's helped me even in the few days since I've had this tattoo, so that's pretty cool and also a win. A big thank you again to our sponsor today. Check out the link down below. It helps support this channel and also is a company that I actively use and really like. To all of my patrons over on Patreon, thank you so much for your continued support. I'd also like to thank Sophie for her incredible cuteness as we film this video, and Mr. Leo, who is just staring out the window. And by the way, to you watching this video right now, thank you so much for spending a few minutes out of your day here with me today. You could be anywhere else in the world doing anything else, and you chose to hang out with me and see me get a new leg and talk about that for a little while, and I really appreciate that. I love you guys. I'm thinking about you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.
Sophie says bye too.
Discapacidad Televisión.
¡Hola, mundo!
Primer canal de televisión dedicado al colectivo de personas con discapacidad desde 2006.
Hola, bienvenidos a Discapacidad Televisión. Recuerda suscribirte para no perderte los últimos estrenos y programas en vivo. Danos un me gusta, y así nos ayudarás a conocerte mejor. Por favor, no te olvides de compartir. Así, más personas podrán disfrutar de Discapacidad Televisión y toda su programación. Muchas gracias.